And we're now joined for analysis of the situation in the United States from Washington by Ginger Chapman, lawyer and political analyst, and from Iowa, from Newman Abu-Issa, who is a political analyst on U.S. affairs. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining us here, and a very happy Thanksgiving to you both. Thanks for joining us on a holiday. Ginger Chapman, I'll come to you first. This dismissal of this Georgia racketeering case, does that really cement the immunity of this president?
Well, first, Mark, thank you for having us today, and happy Thanksgiving to you and your viewers. And what we are seeing with the dismissal of this Georgia case, for many in the Republican Party, this is a long overdue acknowledgement that the case was flawed. Indeed, as the current prosecutor said, it should not be against the law for any American to question the validity of any of our elections. And we've all seen the tortuous history of this case, where Trump and many of his associates were charged with criminal racketeering. Racketeering is a law based on a criminal enterprise extorting a community. And so the legal grounds were questionable. And then we saw the case implode when it turned out the lead prosecutor, Fani Willis, was having an affair with and paying off one of the other prosecutors. So it became a very sordid affair. And unfortunately, during the course of the prosecution, many of Trump's most loyal associates, such as former mayor and Giuliani, he was disbarred from practice of law because of his perceived involvement. Sidney Powell, another high-powered lawyer, and indeed we even saw that mugshot of Trump, which was the first mugshot of a former president, which the Democrats thought they could use that to shame Trump. But it wound up becoming that mugshot became a symbol of defiance and resistance for Trump supporters. So the closing of this case, Republicans believe, is long overdue because it was one of the many fake cases brought to persecute Trump instead of prosecute him for any valid criminal activity. Now, we do see that there is ongoing resistance to Trump. As you mentioned, the Democrat senators that have made that video encouraging military members, soldiers, to disobey lawful orders. This is a case of trying to undermine Trump. And indeed, they got a very big reaction from Trump. He immediately nicknamed them the Seditious Six. He says he's opening investigations. But overall, this is a sign that America's divisions are becoming more extreme, and it is becoming harder for Trump to hold the country together at this time.
Okay.
Trump is...
Okay. Well, let me bring in Newman Abu-Issa, if I can. On the other hand, of course, Trump's poll ratings and especially when it comes to trust are very, very low. 25% of Americans believe that he has done what he can to release the Epstein files. Is Trump struggling? Has he become that lame duck president yet?
Good day to all of you. Yes, Trump is a lame duck. This is the last term he's serving. He thinks that he might want to go and serve future terms against the Constitution, but then we have law and order in this country, and the laws will not allow him to run again. He is the president who defies all kind of rules. He wants to send ICE to the states and to cities in spite of the governors and the mayors of those cities refusing to allow ICE to come in. And he insists that he wants to show a show of force for the American people, that he is a strong president. He's trying to hide his weakness in recovering the economy. He's hiding his weakness in exposing the Epstein files. He tried to resist that until the last minute, and then he came around and changed his mind. He is an opportunist. He would change his mind to whatever might suit him politically. And that's why a president that is not principled, and the American people are rejecting him as the polls are showing, and he is the president who is going to be prosecuted for his violations of the American law. He is trying to militarize the capital now by adding 500 troops to the capital, in addition to the 2,000 National Guards, which they have no place inside the American cities. They should be protecting the United States from outside and only on emergency basis. There is no emergency at this point. He tried to make it emergency every time he goes around, and he's just trying to cover his weaknesses in energy, in economy, and also in controlling the inflation in this country.
But now let's come to the incredibly sad, awful shooting of the two National Guard members in Washington, D.C., near to the White House. Ginger Chapman, coming to you. As I mentioned before, the New York Times said this was instantly politicized by the president. Is the swift halt on Afghan immigration following this shooting a usual security measure, or is Trump playing politics here?
Yes. Well, this shooting was instantly politicized, and for several reasons. First, the alleged shooter traveled from Washington State, which is the northwest corner of the country, all the way across the country to Washington, D.C., District of Columbia, to carry out the shooting. Washington State is a known hotbed of anarchist activity. It is the home of Antifa. We know Antifa tends to be wealthier, white, dissatisfied Americans. We do know, for example, if the alleged shooter was not Afghani, he would be treated differently. A great example is we saw the American Hispanic man several months ago who allegedly shot two people outside of a synagogue. His last name was Hispanic. That shooting disappeared out of the airwaves. It was not covered because he was American and he was Hispanic. There was no political gain for that. With this shooting, because he is Afghani, this is going to be seized upon because of the already polarized American involvement in the Middle East. Many Americans want America to pull out, to contain Israel. So this shooting in particular, this person's identity is playing into the politics, the greater fear of Zionism, radical Islamic terrorism, and also fears of immigration. So yes, it will be seized upon for Trump to push further. And we have seen with Trump, he tends to accelerate trends. So the divisions within the American people over left, right, divisions among race, black, white, religion, Zionism, evangelical Christian, the many, many divisions in America have been enhanced and exacerbated and accelerated under Trump. And another thing where many of Trump's supporters are angry that he's focused so much of his attention overseas at the same time that America is desperately in need of presidential attention and fixing of our structural problems. The Epstein files took Trump by surprise. Even though he campaigned on it, he was very surprised that his voters were serious. They wanted the files released. His voters are angry with his presidential cabinet, specifically Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Don Bongino. They are viewed as incompetent and not delivering on Trump's promises for the American people. We have not seen indictments of the people involved in January 6th. We have not seen indictments over the false electors and the unlawful prosecutions, lawfare levied against President Trump. So many American voters want justice, but they do not see Trump delivering even on the Epstein files, which wound up becoming what drove the rift between Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Indeed,
It's
indeed.
driving
It is,
deeper rifts in.
it is causing mega wars. I just want to, we might come back to that in just a moment, Ginger, but I want to come back to you, Newman Abu Issa, on this particular incident in Washington, D.C. What's your view on the politicization and also on Donald Trump sending 500 more of the National Guard to Washington, D.C.? Is he using this as an opportunity to play politics?
Absolutely, yes. President Trump is the president who decided to withdraw our troops from Afghanistan, and he was not able to withdraw our troops in his first term, and he left that job to Joe Biden, and now he's criticizing Joe Biden for the failed withdrawal from our troops. And this gentleman here is used to deal with the CIA. He's a CIA agent, and he is, if he would have been deported to Afghanistan, he will be executed in Afghanistan. It just shows that the Americans don't have friends. They are the president of the United States is willing to use this incident to capitalize on his drive to say that the Muslim Brotherhood is a terrorist organization, and he's trying to describe every Muslim in this country as a terrorist, and that's one way of doing it right now. We see that a Muslim deranged agent of the CIA came and attacked two agents by the White House, and the president is capitalizing on this incident by showing his force. It's just to show to cover up his weaknesses, make a decision making from the withdrawing from Afghanistan to the militarization of our capital. He wants our capital.
Okay. Okay. I will say that there's no evidence that this suspected shooter, was working for the CIA. But I take your point. This kind of conversation does go on. Ginger Chapman, coming back to you. What about these 500 more troops being deployed to the capital? This is at conflict with recent federal rulings that restrict the president's unilateral security authority in the capital, isn't it?
Well, first, I do want to tentatively agree with your other guest, Mr. Issa, who stated that the Afghan national may have been working with the CIA in Afghanistan, because as we know, Biden wanted to bring over our allies who were working with us in Afghanistan so they would not be subject to punishment by the Taliban if they were left behind. However, like everything else, Biden managed to mess that up. Biden ruined our withdrawal from Afghanistan. That is one of the things that displayed the decline of the American empire. That is a stain on our reputation. However, with respect to the 500 National Guards being deployed to Washington, D.C., America is in a crime wave right now. The American people, especially in large Democrat cities, are afraid of violent crime. We see in places like Chicago, New York, Baltimore, Los Angeles. Those are places where carjackings, thefts, armed robberies, shootings appear to be out of control. We did see in the New York City subway, we had 2 people set on fire, burned alive. We just saw within the past week on the Chicago subway, an innocent woman was set on fire. She's now in the hospital in critical condition. So Americans see that we are in out of control, Wild West, high crime situations. Does this warrant President Trump declaring a national emergency? There are other ways that Trump could handle this. Sending out the National Guard is not the best solution because the National Guard cannot tackle street crime. They have different rules of engagement when they encounter citizens. They're not trained in Miranda rights or how to handle criminal defendants. So the National Guard is not the best solution. Trump feels that it's a show of force. And like much of what Trump does, it's showy, it makes a statement, but it does not tackle the root issues. Trump needs to work with the governors and mayors of those cities in order to increase the police force. One of the things President Obama did was he sued police forces and then forced those police forces to work with him under memorandums of understanding where President Obama defanged and neutralized our police forces. Trump needs to follow that same playbook where he works within domestic, federal, and state legal channels. Otherwise, Trump risks looking impotent as though he is doubling down on failed policies. The tragic shootings of the National Guard's members just shows that they are vulnerable in a way that police officers might not be. So not just with tackling the scourge of violent crime that Americans are suffering under, but many other issues in this country, our health insurance subsidies, our judicial system having a two-tiered system of justice, our food stamps, Americans are having trouble affording groceries. Gasoline prices may be down, but electric bills are now skyrocketing. So there are many domestic issues that Trump needs to address. And he appears to be going about it using shows of force rather than working through legal and procedural channels that are not as glamorous but would yield greater results. And as a result, his supporters are becoming increasingly angry.
Newman Abu Issa, coming back to you, Ginger Chapman there mentioning energy prices. Given the president's failure of this drill, baby, drill agenda to lower energy prices in any significant way, does he face problems that his rhetoric doesn't have any great substantive economic delivery? And does Trump's energy policy just end up being more rhetoric than results?
Absolutely, it's all rhetoric. 50% of the Americans are living with needs. Their needs are not being sustained. There are the shutdown of the government for the longest ever shutdown, and he was the head of the government at the time, and he allowed the government to be shut down more than 40 days, where people were not getting their checks to receive the food for the children, and also he's trying to change the budget to lower the amount of subsidies for the healthcare. Many tens of millions of Americans will lose their healthcare system under the president, and Americans are struggling, and he is trying to cover that struggle by show of force. I mean, his energy policy is a failure. Of course, he is not able to compete with the other oil in the globe, where prices are cheaper overseas than they are in this country. But he thought that he can drill his way out of this economic crisis, and it shows that this economic crisis forced him to go and meet with the president of China and back up on his tariff he initiated against China, for example, and against many countries. So he is the president who thinks that he can do everything, and at the end he is not able to do anything. And that's why the American people are losing trust in this president and losing confidence in the government, and they are looking elsewhere at this point.
And of course, Ginger Chapman, it hasn't all been success, has it? When you look at in the courts, you look at James Comey and also Letitia James, that particular court case, one of his retribution court cases of trying to indict his political enemies, that was thrown out of court. It hasn't all been going Trump's way.
Actually, having the James Comey, Letitia James cases thrown out of court is a particular embarrassment to the Trump administration because it was thrown out on a procedural technicality. The American people have been waiting for the first prosecutions of the deep state members, the attorney generals and DAs, district attorneys who engaged in lawfare against President Trump. We want retribution. We want comeuppance. And in this case in particular, the case was thrown out because the prosecuting attorney was improperly appointed. When Pam Bondi appointed that attorney, her jurisdiction to appoint that attorney had already expired for interim appointments, and that appointment was now up to the district court, not the attorney general. This is a rookie mistake, and this is exactly the same reason that Jack Smith, who was the special prosecutor prosecuting Trump over the Mar-a-Lago classified documents, Jack Smith's appointment was thrown out because he was improperly appointed. And in both of these cases, the court said the Department of Justice cannot hire a lawyer off the street to come in and prosecute a case without going through the proper channels.
Okay.
We just cannot. And I do want to mention with the energy prices, this is a classic example of foreign policy overtaking domestic policy. Trump wants to lower energy prices for Americans, but the war in Ukraine, Lindsey Graham, military-industrial complex, they want secondary sanctions on Russia exports. They want to sanction India buying oil. They want to sanction Iran oil production. So Trump's foreign policy is acting against his domestic policy.
Okay.
Trump is driving up global energy prices. He cannot serve many masters.
Okay, and Newman Abu Issa, final word to you. We've only got about a minute and a half left or so. Trump's policies, especially perhaps this new crackdown on people from Afghanistan and refugees that have gone to the country. What might countries in the Middle East and Asia and in the rest of the world make of Trump's policies like these?
Those policies are hurting the American businesses in the first place. America depends on refugees, but the President of the United States is calling all refugees are criminal, and they are taking advantage of this country, and he shut down the gates to immigration to this country, and he's proud of doing so, even though many American businesses, American universities depend on researchers and doctors and professors helping out this economy. But the president is trying to persecute immigrants whenever he can, and try to make an example of them. I know that from firsthand. His ICE agent came to the city where I live, and they came in the middle of the day to arrest a tagged person who was working during his work hours. They arrested him from among his co-workers, and show of force to terrorize the American public, and to show that he is in control of his policies, and he does not care about the court system or about the businesses or about the American people. He's just doing what he's pleased, because he knows that the immigration issue brought him to the presidency. People on the right hand of politics in this country do not like immigrants, do not like brown and black people, and he's capitalizing on that kind of discrimination against those people, and he's proud to bring more white South African to the United States, and shutting down all the other countries combined. And this is the policies which cannot be sustained, will not be accepted by the United States people. And even the Catholic Church and its bishops issued a statement against the president's policies by arresting people, and arresting even children, and sending them away if they don't have the documentation they need, or sending their parents and leaving the children here. So he's separating families. He says that he's a pro-family president, but he is not the pro-family for all Americans, but only for the selected few.
Well, thank you very much on that quite depressing note. We shall leave it there, and I'll let you both go and have your turkey and pumpkin pie. Save us some. Ginger Chapman, lawyer and political analyst, thank you very much for joining us. And Newman Abu Issa, political analyst on U.S. affairs. Thank you very much, both of you. So, as legal shields rise and troops flood the D.C., Trump's return tests America's institutions, not just with power, but with promises unkept, trust eroding, and the world watching. That brings us to the end of today's episode. Thank you very much for joining us, and stay tuned for more here on Q News.